Welcome guys to peacarma stitches. Today we're going to be making this beautiful dress. On the thumbnail I have this beautiful fabric. It's a sample lace. I have 2 yards. I have this velvet bias tape, 3 yards of Ankara print, and my lining. So let's get right into class. So I have this fabric folded into two. Okay, for two for the front, two for the back. We're cutting both front and back together. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is this. We're going to be marking our shoulder. So my client shoulder is 7.5. That's divided into two. Okay, my neck width, I'm marking 3 inches for now. I'll come down by 1 inch for our shoulder slope, and then I'll slant it. Okay, your fold should be the biggest part of your body plus 5 inches, depending on how free you want it to be. Okay, so from the shoulder, I'm going to be marking shoulder to bust point of my client. So work with your own measurement. Her shoulder to waist measurement, okay? I'm marking that out. I'm also going to be marking her shoulder to hip, okay? Shoulder to hip measurement, or you can take it from the waist. You mark down 9 or 8 inches depending on the person's height. Okay, so from there we're going to be marking the full length. Okay, remember we're going to be adding lace to the lower part, so you're going to subtract what I'm using the 45 inch of Ankara. Okay, the full length is going to be 64 inches. So from the sloped place, I'm going to be marking down a armhole. Okay, sorry, armhole. Okay, so when I marked it, what I had was 1 inch above the bust point. So I'm going ahead to mark that 1 inch mark, and I'm at that chest line now. I'm also marking our shoulder measurement. Okay, so mark exactly what you had on the shoulder at this chest line part. So we'll go ahead now to put in her bust measurement. Her bust divided by 4 is 9.75. And then I'm going to mark the midpoint of my armhole from the sloped part. Okay, get the midpoint of this, your chest line measurements. Mark the midpoint, and you're going to come inwards by 1/2 inch, and then you connect it to the 1/2 inch, connect it back to the bust measurement, and we have our perfect armhole cuff. Okay, now I'm going to be adding 2 inches. Okay, this my customer is pregnant. Okay, she's heavily pregnant, so I want this dress to be as free as possible on her. So I'm still going to add some more inches later on. Okay, so the waist measurement divided by 4 plus 2 inches or 1.5 inch, depending on how much ease you want. And then I'm connecting this straight down. I'm going to mark a hip measurement divided by 4, and then I'm going to add the sewing allowance. So I'll add the sewing allowance and I'll connect. Now I'll take the exact thing I have on the hip. Okay, I need it to be straight. I'll mark the exact same thing on the hem line. Okay, so remember we're using the 45 of Ankara. You know Ankara comes by 45. Now the lace is going to complete the 64 inches, which is the full length of our gown. Okay, so that's what I've gone ahead to mark. Like I said earlier, I decided to add 1 more inch to this because the client is pregnant. Okay, and she needed her dress to be so free on her. Okay, that's why I couldn't get a picture. She didn't want to be shown. Okay, so I decided to add 1 more inch all the way to the hem. Okay, so you can add 1.5, 2 inches is perfect depending on how free you want it to be. So the neck width, I'm going to be marking 3.75 by 1 inch. 1 inch is for the back neckline. Remember, we're cutting both front and back together. So I'm going to connect. And then for the front, from the style is a V neckline. So I'm going to be using 7 inches for her. Okay, I'm using 7 inches. So the depth depends on what you want, but 7 inches was just perfect for her. Okay, remember there's no zipper on this dress. So the neck needs to be deep enough for your head to pass through. So 7 inches is perfect. I added half of an inch on the shoulder for joining, and that's it. We're going to go ahead and cut out. Remember, you're cutting out the back neckline first, okay? Then we're cutting the shoulder slope, the sides. I'm using the same armhole for both front and back, okay? So I'm cutting from the lower part. So if you've watched up to this point and you've not liked this video, please kindly like and subscribe. I really appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for the views, the likes, the comments so far. God bless you guys richly. Now, I'm thinking of doing a freehand corset top, okay, for plus size, okay, for a big bust. So if you'll be interested in that tutorial, kindly let me know in the comments, okay? So just go ahead and cut, 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 cut. We're going to be cutting the exact same thing on the lining, okay? The lining, we're going to reduce the hem by 1 inch, so I'll show us that. I'm cutting out the front neck. I'm lifting up the front fabric to cut out the front neckline, and that's it, okay? So this is what I said. I've gone ahead to cut out the exact same thing on the lining, okay? The exact same thing. The only difference is that we're going to be reducing the hem of the lining by 1 inch, okay? So that's what we have. We'll go ahead now and cut out the design on the front. I have my lace folded into two, okay? We're using the front piece, so it has to be on fold. So make sure the center front is well aligned, okay? It has to lay flat. I'm going to pin this down. Work with your pins, okay? You're going to make this lay flat. The center is on fold. The center of your lace is on fold, okay? Your center front is on fold. Make sure the midpoints are matching, okay? Now for this design, if you watch closely, it went all the way to the waistline, okay? So from the waistline, I'm going to curve it upwards. Sorry, my camera wasn't showing this closely, but I'll bring it up close. So now this design depends on you. I'm going to cut out my neckline first. Cut out the shoulder slope. Is going to be the exact same thing. Just watch closely what I'm doing. I'm going to be reducing by 1 inch later, but just watch closely. Now lift this up. From the waistline, I'm going to cut a V shape. Don't worry, I'll bring it to the front part, so we'll do some more corrections, okay? So can you see what we have now? From the waistline, I'm going to connect it in a curved manner. Now the design for her, she wanted a little bit of difference from what's on the thumbnail, okay? So I decided to give it a curved shape. But if you want yours to be V, from that slant at the center, just make it in a V shape to the shoulder. Now from the shoulder, I came inwards by 1 inch, okay? Remember, we're going to be attaching sleeve, so you don't want this to go all the way to the armhole. So I came inwards by half of an inch and connected it in a curved manner to meet our design. So when I bring this to the front part, you see what we have, okay? So go ahead and curve it. Any design you want to use is totally up to you, okay? But this was the design she wanted. She wanted hers rounded in a way. So if you want it to be V, it's just the same thing. The only difference is you cut it in a V shape up to the shoulder. So I'll open this up and then we'll place it on the right side of the fabric, so that any other corrections we need to make, we'll make them. So make sure the center part of your lace is lying right at the center of your Ankara. We need that V shape to really come out. We need it to be pronounced, okay? That's the beauty. So I'm trying to make sure everything is lying flat and lying well. Can you see what we have? So now we're going to make some corrections here. At the armhole part, the lace is out a little bit, so I'm going to trim it. So when you lay it at the front part, you can make any correction you want to make, okay? But this shape at the lower part is just perfect. But if you want yours in a V shape, go ahead and do same, but make sure you minus 1 inch from the shoulder, because we don't want the lace to go all the way to the shoulder because of our sleeves. So we're going to be using our hemming gum to iron this down so that it will be easy for us to sew this. So you cut your hemming gum in pieces, okay, in bits. Lift up your lace, cut them in pieces and place, and use your steam iron to iron this down. If you don't have a steam iron, just pour a little bit of water and then press it down so the lace can lay flat. I'll do that and show us what we have. So can you see what we have here? I've ironed this down. You can see some bits of the hemming gum. Don't worry, I'll still iron it out much later. So we'll bring in our bias tape, okay? Our velvet bias tape. You're laying it right at the edge of the lace, okay? We're covering the edge of the lace. I'm lifting up. Can you see the way I placed it? So you're sewing both sides of the bias tape. You sew the outward part first. Make sure you're following the design on your lace. After sewing the outer part, you sew the inner part. But I advise you use your pins to hold this down before you go ahead to sew, or you can use your hemming gum under the bias tape, iron it out first before you sew this, okay, for accuracy. Now when you sew on both sides, at this center you can fold in 1/2 inch, okay. Watch the way I'm showing you guys here. When you get to the center, you fold this part and sew down, and you start from this other shoulder, sew it to that part and overlap them and top stitch, okay. That's what I did for mine. So now for the lining, we're going to be removing 1 inch. Like I said earlier, the lining needs to be shorter than the main fabric so it doesn't come out when we are turning our lace, okay. We need a neat finish here. So I'm removing 1 inch. I'm doing the same for both front and back. I'm minusing 1 inch only from the lining. Then I'll cut this out. So go ahead and cut it out. Then I'm going to show us how you're going to impute your lace to have that neat finish, okay. So go ahead and fold your fabric into two. I'm going to cut out my lace. So remember I said we're using 45 inches, okay, the full Ankara length. Now to complete the 64 inches, the lace is going to complete that for us, okay. So whatever you have left, that's what you're going to be cutting on your lace. Subtract the upper part to get your full length. We're going to put it on fold the same way the upper part is on fold, and I'm going to show us how we're going to be placing this. It's on fold. Remember, the back part is not going to be open. So I'll pick one to show us what we'll do, okay. So open up your fabric. Make sure it's the right side. You're going to be placing your lace on the right side. So bring in your lining. Remember, we've not turned the neckline yet, okay. Place them right sides facing each other. You're going to sew the neckline, okay. You're going to sew up the neckline. Just follow the V shape, okay. Make sure it's well aligned. Sew up the neckline first. After sewing up the neckline, you're going to bring in your lace, right sides of the lace facing each other, okay. You're placing your lace on the right side of your Ankara, okay. So you bring in your lace, align them at the lower parts. You can go ahead and pin this down, okay, for accuracy. I'm going to pin this down. Ensure you're placing it on the right side of your Ankara, okay. So you're going to sew up the neckline. After sewing up the neckline, you sew up this lower part that we're pinning right now. After sewing it, that's when you can join the sides. Do you understand? Sew up the neckline first, sew up this lower part, okay. You're going to sandwich your lace. Is going to be in between the Ankara and the lining. The lining is going to cover up the lace, okay. Then you sew it up. Can you see what we're doing here? You bring in your lining, okay, and then you place it over the lace, okay. So just watch what I'm doing closely. Okay, after sewing up the neckline first, you place your lining over the lace. The lace will lay in between the two of them. Okay, so you're going to sew up the neckline, sew up the lower parts, then you sew the sides. I'm going to do the same for both front and back. Okay, you join them together this way and you sew it down so we can have a neat finish. So I'll do this and show us what we have. So this is our beautiful bubu dress gradually coming up together. Can you see our design? Very unique and beautiful. Sincerely, I haven't seen this design. Please tell me if you've seen it somewhere else. So can you see our neckline? I've sewn it down top stitch with both the lining. Now look at what we have. Okay, we need to have this neat finishing. Neatness is key. Okay, so can you see how neat that hem part is? So I'm going to be laying our fabric right sides facing each other. Now can you see this design? Can you see how beautiful this is? I've not ironed this out yet, okay? This is so beautiful. So go ahead and try yours and let me know in the comments how this comes out. So we're going to go ahead and join the shoulders and also shape the sides. If you've been watching my tutorial, you know how we turn our shoulders. You're going to use the lining to wrap up both shoulders. Okay, can you see what I'm doing? Or you can place right sides of the fabric facing each other, right sides of your lining facing each other. Make sure the shoulder is well aligned and then you stitch them up. Okay, you will still get the same effect. So I'll go ahead and join both shoulders, shape the sides with our sewing allowance all the way to the lower part. Now if you want yours to have a slit, you can open up the both sides on the both sides, sorry, but I'm joining mine all the way. I'll do that and show us what we have. So before that, let's go ahead and cut our sleeves. I have my fabric folded into two, okay, into four, sorry. We're cutting the both sleeves at the same time. Okay, now this is a straight sleeve. Okay, so now the length of my sleeve, I used 16 inches. Okay, remember we're going to be adding lace to the lower part to turn up the lower part of the sleeve. So go ahead and mark whatever length you want. Remember we're going to turn up with the lace. Okay, so I'm going to mark what I have around my armhole. Okay, but first from the top I'm going to be marking down 4.5 inches. I'm going to be doing a freehand cutting here. I'll just do an S-like shape. Can you see what we have? So if you need a detailed tutorial on how to cut a sleeve, just let me know in the comments. Now I'm cross-checking to be sure I have my round armhole measurement. So where I have that, I'm going to mark that. Okay, that's where my round armhole measurement stops. I'm going to be marking my round elbow measurement and I'm adding 2 inches to it because it's a free sleeve. It's a straight sleeve. It's not shaped, okay? Now I'm marking the exact same thing on the lower part and I'm connecting it to a straight line. So what you have at the elbow, mark the exact same thing at the full length of your sleeve. It's not a penciled sleeve, okay? I'll just go ahead and cut this out and we're done with our sleeve. Remember the lower part of this sleeve, we're going to be using our lace to turn up, okay? So I'll show us how to achieve that. Please, if you've watched up to this point and you've not liked and you've not subscribed, please pause right now and do that. It encourages me to put out tutorials for us. God bless you as you do so. So our two sleeves are now ready. So go ahead and notch the center point, okay? So you know the midpoint of your sleeve. So I'm going to bring in the lace that we're going to be using to turn up the lower parts. The length of this lace is 3 inches. Now the width, sorry, is 3 inches. Now the length is as long as your sleeve round. but I had excess. It's always better to have excess, and you can always trim it off. So you're going to be marking the wrong side of your fabric. Okay, we're sewing on the wrong side of our fabric. So mark the wrong side, okay, and turn it to the wrong side. So you're placing the lace, okay, on the wrong side, the right side to the wrong side of your fabric, and you're going to stitch it down. After stitching, you top stitch and turn it to the right side and fold in 1/4 inch and top stitch on the right side. Okay, so I'll do it for both sleeves and I'll show us what we have. So guys, welcome back. This is a little fabric we had left from our 3 yards. She said she needed a little bit of hair tie, so this is what I could get for her. So she needed to tie this on her head. So that's her headpiece. And this is our beautiful boo-boo dress. Can you see that design? Now look at that sleeve. I've gone ahead to turn this. Can you see what we have? So turn to the right side and top stitch by 1/4 inch. I'm going to iron this out later. Now look at that design. Can you see how beautiful it is? So unique. I'll iron this out later, okay? I haven't ironed this. I'll iron it and weave the sides. So can you see the lace, how beautiful it is? I'll hem the lower parts, okay? I'll fold in by 1/4 inch. Ensure these sides are lined so that your work can come out beautiful. So thank you so much guys for stopping by for today's tutorial. I really appreciate. Now if you'll be interested in that freehand corset tutorial, kindly let me know in the comments. I love you guys so much. Till I see you guys next time. Bye bye. Thank you so much. Okay, this is our beautiful boo boo. Kindly like, share and subscribe. Bye guys.